The most terrifying thing in Tunisia wasn't German 88s. It wasn't the Stukas screaming out of cloudless North African skies. It wasn't even the damn sand that got into everything, grinding machinery down to useless metal. It was running out of motorcycles. February 1943. Somewhere between Kasserine Pass and a future that looked increasingly uncertain, Sergeant Russell Carver knelt in the dust beside an olive-drab Harley-Davidson WLA. His hands, stained black with oil and red with the fine Tunisian dirt, moved across the motorcycle's frame with the careful attention of a farmer inspecting a sick animal. Around him, 72 more motorcycles sat in perfect rows. An American motor pool abandoned 3 days ago during a hasty withdrawal. The Germans had taken everything else: jeeps, trucks, ammunition, fuel. But they'd left the motorcycles. Russ didn't know whether to be grateful or insulted. His fingers found the manufacturer's plate and he rubbed away the grime. Serial number 42, WLA 4376. The numbers meant something, though he didn't yet understand what. The 42 designated production year 1942. The Americans had standardized their wartime production, simplified everything, focused on getting steel into the field rather than perfection onto the showroom floor. But that second number, that's what made his throat tighten. 43,576. Russ had been a mechanic for 20 years. Started at age 18 on his father's farm outside Cedar Rapids, fixing tractors and combines that broke down during harvest. When the war came, the army looked at his hands and said one word: motorcycles. He'd seen a lot of serial numbers in his life, but never one that high. 43,000 motorcycles, from one manufacturer, in maybe 18 months of wartime production. The mathematics began to whisper in his head, and the whisper sounded like dread. Behind him, boots scuffed in the sand. Private Hank Kowalski, 19 years old, Polish kid from Detroit, who'd been assigned to Russ's maintenance section 2 weeks before Kasserine. Good kid, enthusiastic. Still believed everything the newsreels told him about American superiority and inevitable victory. "Sarge, Captain Briggs wants to see you. Says it's urgent." Russ stood, knees popping. 38 felt like 60 in the desert. "How many bikes we got left in our unit, Hank?" The enthusiasm dimmed. 3, Sarge. Maybe 4 if we can get number 17 running again. We started the week with 15. 12 motorcycles gone in 1 week. Not destroyed by superior German tactics. Just gone. Broken down. Abandoned. Left behind because there weren't enough spare parts or trained mechanics or working hours in the day to keep them running. Captain Briggs stood outside the command tent, studying a map spread across the hood of a Willys Jeep. He was 45, career Army, the kind of officer who'd come up through the ranks before getting his commission. He looked up as Russ approached, and the expression in his eyes made Russ's stomach drop. "Sergeant Carver, walk with me." They moved away from the tent, away from listening ears. Briggs stopped near the motor pool, looking at the rows of abandoned Harleys. "Command wants a convoy escort tomorrow morning, 15 miles to the forward supply depot." Briggs turned to face him directly. "I need operational motorcycles, Sergeant. I need riders, and I need them by dawn." Russ felt the weight of impossible settling on his shoulders. "Sir, with respect, we've got 3 working bikes. I know what we've got." Briggs's voice carried the edge of a man who'd already had this argument with someone higher up and lost. "I also know what we need. The convoy rolls with escort, or it doesn't roll at all, and if it doesn't roll, men at the front don't eat." "Sir, I can't manufacture motorcycles out of sand." "No." Briggs looked back at the 73 abandoned Harleys. "But you can fix those. The Germans left them. That makes them ours now." 73 motorcycles, unknown condition, and 18 hours to make enough of them work to escort a convoy through territory where the enemy could be anywhere. "Sergeant Carver." Briggs's voice went quiet. "I don't need excuses. I need solutions. You're an Iowa wrench-turner who kept tractors running with baling wire and prayers. That's why I'm talking to you instead of sending you to the stockade for the bikes we've already lost." The threat hung in the air. "Fix this, or face a court-martial." "Permission to speak freely, sir." "Granted." "This is impossible." Briggs almost smiled. "Then you'll fit right in with the rest of this goddamn war." "Dismissed, Sergeant. Dawn comes early." Russ walked back to the motor pool. The numbers kept whispering. 73 bikes. 18 hours. Unknown variables stacking up like sandbags against a flood. He stopped at the first Harley, the one with serial number 43576, and just stood there. The voice of his father echoing across 20 years. "Russ, when you can't see the solution, start by understanding the problem. The fix usually shows itself if you're patient enough to look. Russ pulled a rag from his pocket and began wiping down the tank. Under the dust, olive drab paint showed through thick and even. No bullet holes, no dents, just a motorcycle sitting in the sun, waiting. He moved to the engine. The air cleaner cover came off easily. Inside, the filter element looked nearly new. He checked the oil. Full. Clean. The right weight for desert conditions. Spark plugs worn but serviceable. Battery dead, probably, but the magneto meant the bike could run without it. And then he found the maintenance log. Tucked into a small pouch on the frame, a waterproof envelope containing a grease-stained notebook. German writing, but the numbers told their own story. 3,200 miles. Desert conditions. The last entry showed 2 spark plugs replaced. Before that, 1 oil change. That was it. 3,000 miles of military use, and the most significant maintenance had been changing spark plugs. Russ thought about the BMW motorcycles the Germans rode. Beautiful machines, over-engineered masterpieces. Overhead valve engine. 4-speed transmission with reverse gear. A marvel of German engineering. It also needed a complete overhaul every 1,500 miles. Required specialized tools. Demanded trained mechanics. And when something broke, you needed parts from Germany shipped across a Mediterranean controlled by Allied air power. The Harley was crude by comparison. Flathead engine using side valve technology that BMW had abandoned years ago. 3-speed hand-shift transmission, agricultural in its simplicity. No rear suspension at all. But it had gone 3,000 miles with minimal maintenance, and it sat here now, abandoned but not broken, waiting. Russ moved to the next motorcycle, then the next. A pattern emerged. Maintenance logs in most of them all telling similar stories. High mileage, minimal repairs. These were working motorcycles that had been used hard and kept running. On the 23rd motorcycle, he found something that stopped him cold. A photograph, tucked into the saddlebag, black and white creased from handling. An American family, father in uniform, mother in a simple dress, 2 daughters, maybe 5 and 7 years old, dated March 14th, 1942. Russ pulled out his wallet. Inside, his own photograph. Sarah, his daughter, 7 years old, when he'd shipped out 6 months ago. She'd drawn him a picture that last morning, a stick-figure man with a wrench fixing a stick-figure motorcycle. At the top, Daddy Fix Things. The dates matched. March 14th, 1942. The same day Sarah had been born, this American soldier had posed for a photograph before shipping out to a war that had consumed him somewhere in this desert. War did that. Reduced everything to mathematics and machinery. But underneath the numbers, there were always people. Fathers and husbands and sons. Men who wanted nothing more than to go home to their little girls. Russ carefully placed the photograph back. He stood in the center of the motor pool surrounded by 73 motorcycles and forced himself to think clearly. Not like a sergeant following orders. Like a tractor man from Iowa who'd learned to keep machinery running when failure meant losing the harvest. What did he actually need? Not perfection. Just enough motorcycles running well enough to escort a convoy 15 miles. 20 bikes to have margin for breakdowns. The numbers shifted. Became manageable. Almost. Hank, I need you to round up every man in the maintenance section.
Get them here in 15 minutes.
Then he noticed something he'd missed. An ammunition box, strapped to the rear carrier. Russ unlatched it and looked inside. Tools. A complete field maintenance kit. Wrenches in graduated sizes. Screwdrivers. Pliers. A spark plug socket. Everything a soldier would need to perform basic repairs organized in foam cutouts. Every motorcycle came with these tools. 73 complete toolkits ensuring that broken machines could be fixed without depot-level maintenance. Under the tools, a manual. Technical manual, TM 10 to 1175, motorcycle solo, Harley-Davidson model WLA. Filled with clear diagrams showing exploded views of every component. Specifications for every tolerance. Troubleshooting guides. The Americans had industrialized not just production but maintenance. A system where a soldier with minimal mechanical knowledge could follow manuals and perform repairs that would require a trained BMW mechanic on German equipment. His maintenance section arrived, all 8 of them looking tired and wary. Not trained mechanics, most of them. Just soldiers who'd shown aptitude with tools. "Gentlemen," Russ said quietly, "we have a problem. Captain Briggs needs 20 motorcycles by dawn. We have 3 working bikes and 73 unknowns. 18 hours to accomplish something the Army says is impossible." Silence. "But here's what we also have." Russ held up the manual and the toolkit. Instructions written for regular soldiers, not master mechanics. Tools designed for field repairs. And 73 motorcycles that were built by thousands in American factories by workers who'd never touched a wrench before the war. He opened the manual. The diagram showed complete engine assembly, every part labeled with step-by-step instructions. Anyone who could read could understand this. The Germans left these bikes because they're crude. But crude means simple. Simple means fixable.
One of the men spoke up. Sarge, even if we can fix them, who's going to ride them? Then we teach them. We have 18 hours.
Russ walked along the row.
First, we assess. Check every bike. Separate them into 3 groups ready to run fixable and parts donors. He stopped, ran his hand along a seat. Second, we standardize. Every man learns the same basic repairs. The manual shows us how. Russ pulled out the photograph of the American family. Third, we remember why we're doing this. This bike belonged to a father who wanted to go home to his daughters. We're going to make it run again, for him, and for every other father who needs working equipment to survive. The men hesitated, then moved. Slowly at first, then with growing purpose. Russ turned back to motorcycle 43576, his bike now. If this worked, he wanted to remember this specific machine. He positioned himself at the kickstarter, took a breath, and kicked down hard. The engine turned over once, twice.
He kicked again. On the 4th kick, the engine coughed. On the 5th, it caught. The sound of the Harley-Davidson WLA starting up in the Tunisian desert filled the air with a deep, rhythmic beat. The distinctive sound of a V-twin engine, crude and unrefined and absolutely reliable. Russ let it run for a full minute, then shut it down. In the sudden silence, he understood something that would change everything. This wasn't just about fixing motorcycles, it was about building a system. The Americans hadn't just designed a bike, they'd designed complete support, tools, manuals, spare parts, training documentation, everything a soldier needed to keep machinery running without specialized expertise. The Germans had built masterpieces, the Americans had built a system, and in industrial warfare, systems beat masterpieces every single time. "All right," he said quietly. "Let's see what American mechanics can do with wrenches and stubbornness." The first hour taught Russ that assessment was the easy part. Execution would be hell. By midnight, Russ had the complete picture. 73 motorcycles. 42 would start with basic maintenance. 18 needed moderate repairs. 13 had serious issues. 15 were parts donors. The numbers shifted again. 42 possibles. He needed 20 operational. Margin 22 bikes. If everything went perfectly. Nothing ever went perfectly. Russ assembled his maintenance section, now grown to 20 men. Anyone who claimed basic mechanical knowledge. A kid from Nebraska, a factory worker from Pittsburgh, a gas station attendant from Georgia. "Listen up. We're going to build our own training system right here, right now." He held up the WLA manual. "This book assumes depot work with unlimited time. We have wrenches and 6 hours, so we simplify." Russ had spent the hour thinking like a mechanic. On the farm, you didn't train hands by reading manuals. You showed them once, supervised them doing it, then turned them loose. 6 essential skills. Every man learns all 6. Spark plug replacement, carburetor adjustment, chain tension, brake adjustment, oil change, basic electrical. Master those, you can keep a Harley running through anything short of catastrophic failure. He pointed to 6 motorcycles designated as training stations. "Pair up, 30 minutes per station. 1 man works, 1 reads. Switch roles. By 0400, every man will have performed every task twice." "Sarge, 30 minutes ain't enough." 30 minutes is what you've got. The convoy rolls whether we're ready or not." Russ softened slightly. "Complicated jobs are just simple jobs done in sequence. We break it down, we focus, we trust the manual and our hands." By 0100, the motor pool had transformed into organized chaos. Men clustered around motorcycles, manuals, open tools in inexperienced hands. Russ moved between stations, correcting techniques, guiding proper angles. At 0130, a voice called out, "Sergeant Carver, you have a visitor?" A German soldier approached under guard. Wehrmacht uniform corporal's stripes, maybe 40 years old. Oil stains on his hands, the permanent kind. Calluses in the right places. "You speak English?" "Some, yes." Heavily accented. "I work BMW factory Munich, 15 years, build motorcycles." A BMW mechanic. A man who'd spent 15 years crafting precision machines. And here he stood surrounded by crude Harley-Davidsons his country's mechanics had abandoned. "What's your name?" "Otto. Otto Weber." "Well, Otto Weber, think a BMW man can work on American machines." Otto walked to the nearest Harley. He looked at the flathead engine with an unreadable expression. "This engine? Side valve design. We abandoned this 1935. Overhead valve is better, more efficient." "But does it work?" Silence. Then Otto looked directly at Russ.
"Yes, it works. It's simple, crude, but like tractor. Not fast, not beautiful, but strong, reliable." Can you help my men learn to fix them? Otto glanced at the guards. Why I do this, I am prisoner. You are enemy. Russ pulled out his canteen, offered it to Otto. The German hesitated, then accepted. A small gesture that meant something. Because you're a mechanic, same as me. And mechanics fix things. It's what we do. Doesn't matter whose flag is on the tank. Otto drank, handed back the canteen. His eyes moved across the motor pool. Something in his expression changed. How many bikes you must fix? 20 operational by dawn. Otto actually laughed. Short, bitter. Impossible. You have maybe 6 hours. No proper tools. No experienced mechanics. Probably not. But we're going to try anyway. You in or out? Otto looked at the Harley again. I show you one thing first. He knelt beside the engine, pointed to the serial number.
You see this 42 WLA 43576, 43,576. This is how many they build before this one. Otto's voice carried strange quality. BMW R75, my motorcycle I build in Munich. Total production 1940 to now maybe 16,000. 5 years of war production. Maximum effort. He stood, looked Russ in the eye. They build more of this one model in 18 months than we build of our finest in 5 years, and this is not even good motorcycle by German standards. Is simple, basic, but they build 90,000, maybe more now. The arithmetic whispered louder. 90,000 Harleys, 16,000 BMWs. Otto continued. In Munich, we have maybe 200 workers build R75, all trained. Takes 2 years to train proper BMW mechanic. He gestured at the Americans. Here you have tractor men, no training, but you have manual that shows everything, tools anyone can use, system that makes expertise unnecessary. This is democratization of maintenance.
You make so simple that anyone can do it. We make so complex that only master can do it.
And which philosophy wins wars? Russ asked. Otto closed the manual, handed it back. I think you already know answer. Russ assigned Otto to carburetor station. Watched the German demonstrate adjustment procedures with 15 years precision, translating concepts into clear instructions. By 0200 training was complete. 20 men who'd started barely able to identify a spark plug could now perform basic maintenance with reasonable competence. Training's over. Time for production. 4 hours until testing runs. Each pair gets 2 motorcycles. Make them run. Questions come to me or Otto. The motor pool exploded into purposeful activity. Wrenches turning, engines kicked over, occasional curses, the universal symphony of mechanics against deadlines. At 0300, Kowalski approached with a grease-stained manifest. Sarge, you need to see this. A shipping manifest from November 1942, Lend-Lease equipment, and their motorcycles Harley-Davidson WLA, quantity 5847, destination Soviet Union. That's just one shipment. Found 6 more, all going to Russia. They've sent over 30,000 of these bikes to the Soviets alone. 30,000 motorcycles. To one ally. Under one program. Otto. The German looked up. Russ showed him the manifest. 30,000 to Soviets, Otto said finally. Just Lend-Lease. BMW makes 16,000 R75 total. Zundap, maybe 19,000. Together, all German motorcycles, maybe 35,000. 5 years maximum effort. And we sent 30,000 to Russia alone. Otto was silent. When he spoke again, his voice carried something like resignation. You win war, not because you are better. You win because you are more. You build more. You ship more. You replace more. It's not about engineering excellence. It's about simple numbers, and numbers do not lie. By 0400, they had 12 running. The remaining 8 were in various states of repair. Russ made the hard call. Bikes 29 and 41 are parts donors. Strip them. Focus on getting 6 operational. At 0430, Captain Briggs arrived. Status report. 14 bikes operational, sir. 4 more within 30 minutes. 18 total. Briggs walked along the row, listening to properly tuned engines. Who's going to ride them? Volunteers from the company. Otto's running a quick start riding course. Basic controls. Nothing fancy. You've done good work, Sergeant. The convoy rolls at 0600. Final inspection at 0530. They'll be ready, sir. After Briggs left, Russ sat on a supply truck running board. Otto sat beside him, lit a cigarette, offered one to Russ. Your daughter, Otto said. The picture in your wallet. I see it. Russ pulled out Sarah's photo. 7 years old, crayon drawing. Her name's Sarah. She'll be 8 in March. I have 2 daughters, Greta and Liesel, 10 and 12. In Munich. I not see them 18 months. Two mechanics on opposite sides of a war, both fathers separated from daughters by arithmetic of industrial conflict. You think we see them again? Otto asked. I think we better. Otherwise, what's the point? At 0500, they had 17 running. Russ put number 18 into service despite a slight oil leak. Acceptable risk. 15 miles. The bike would make it. Otto conducted riding course with surprising patience. Men fell off, got back on, stalled engines, restarted, slowly learned enough to be competent. At 0525, Briggs returned for final inspection. He checked each bike. His face revealed nothing. Finally, Sergeant Carver, your motorcycles are combat ready. Well done. Convoy departs in 35 minutes. Stay alert. Briggs paused. One more thing. Weber. I'm assigning him to your unit as civilian contractor.
He's agreed to continue working. Otto gave a small shrug. Is better than prison camp, and your system works. I want to understand it. The convoy formed as dawn broke. 12 trucks loaded with supplies, 18 Harley-Davidsons as escort, the sound of 36 cylinders creating a rhythm that spoke of American industrial might. Russ rode lead on 43576. Behind him, 17 more machines written off as unusable. Now they ran. 3 miles out, the landscape turned rougher, rocky terrain testing riders and machines. But the Harleys handled it. Men learned to stand on pegs using legs as suspension. Mile 7, a bike threw a chain. The formation stopped. The rider had it back on in 90 seconds. They'd trained for this. The system worked. Mile 10 brought trouble. Dust on the horizon, moving fast. Russ raised his fist. The convoy slowed. The dust resolved into shapes. German Kubelwagens, 2 of them. Scout vehicles. Enemy. The lead Kubelwagen changed course, heading toward them. Russ could see the MG-42 mounted on back. Contact right evasive pattern, Charlie. 18 motorcycles scattered, denying the gunner a concentrated target. This was the advantage. Maneuverability. The MG-42 opened up. 1,200 rounds per minute. Tracers streaked past. Russ cranked the throttle, the Harley responding instantly. Behind him, return fire. Soldiers dismounted using motorcycles as cover, engaging with rifles and Thompsons. Kowalski rode hard toward the Germans. Thompson one-handed firing from the saddle. The German driver swerved. Then an American truck with a .50 caliber opened fire. Heavy rounds punched through the Kubelwagen's armor. The vehicle died in steam and smoke. The second Kubelwagen broke contact, running for the horizon. And then a voice shouting in German from the retreating vehicle. Otto froze. The words were clear. Russ didn't speak German, but he recognized a name being called. Weber Otto Weber, komm zurück. They recognized him. The voice called again, promising safety return to the fatherland. Otto looked at Russ, at the American soldiers, at the Harleys they'd maintained together. The German voice called a third time. Weber, letzter chance. Otto picked up a wrench, walked calmly to motorcycle number 7, which had stalled, knelt down, started working while bullets had snapped overhead moments before. Otto, get to cover. Otto didn't look up. They call me back to system that builds 16,000 motorcycles in 5 years. I stay with system that builds 90,000 in 3 years. Is simple arithmetic, Russ. I choose numbers that win. The Kubelwagen retreated. Otto got the bike running. Stood up, choice made permanent. Now we finish escort. Your convoy needs to move. Casualties. 1 man grazed. No bikes hit. Russ rode to Kowalski. You all right, Hank? Yeah, Sarge. I just reacted. You did good. Crazy but good. Russ clapped his shoulder. Mount up. 5 miles to go. The convoy reached the supply depot at 0815, 17 motorcycles operational, 1 with thrown chain repaired in field, 1 rider wounded. Against impossible odds, they'd succeeded. Captain Briggs found Russ checking his bike. Well executed. Your riders performed beyond expectations. They performed because they had machines that worked, sir. Because the system supported them. Briggs nodded. Division wants to know how you did it. Wants your procedures standardized. Operational readiness jumped from 60% to 91%. That's unprecedented. Russ looked at Otto, smoking another cigarette. The German nodded slightly. It wasn't me, sir. It was the system. These bikes were built to be maintained by anyone with a manual and wrench. We just proved it works. You're being promoted to Master Sergeant, and I want you to train every mechanic in the division. We're replicating this across the theatre. After Briggs left, Russ sat on his Harley, looked at the serial number. 4276. 1 motorcycle out of 90,000.
Otto approached, extended his hand. Russ took it. "You understand now?" Otto asked quietly. "Why we cannot win?" Russ thought about the manifests, the production numbers, the system. "Yeah, I understand. This isn't won by better weapons. It's won by who can produce more, maintain more, replace more." Otto finished the thought. "The numbers do not lie, never lie, and numbers say America buries us, not with excellence, with quantity that makes excellence irrelevant." May 13th, 1943. The guns fell silent across Tunisia. Russ stood at the edge of a road watching German and Italian soldiers march toward POW camps. They passed rows of American equipment, jeeps, trucks, tanks, motorcycles. A German lieutenant stopped, stared at the Harleys with an expression Russ recognized, the same look Otto had worn 3 months ago.
Recognition. Understanding. The mathematics of defeat made visible. Otto stood beside Russ now. Civilian contractor officially, colleague practically. 3 months helping standardize maintenance across the division. "What did he say?" Russ asked. Otto lit a cigarette. "He asks his soldier how many motorcycles Americans have. The boy says maybe 50 here. The officer tells him, they have 90,000. We build 35,000 in 5 years maximum effort. They build this many as side project." He's not wrong. No. Otto watched the defeated soldiers. His strange feeling. My country loses. I know this since February in your motor pool, but still feels like watching arithmetic become history. In March, the Carver maintenance system spread across 3 divisions. Operational readiness jumped from 63 to 89%. In April, Russ trained 200 mechanics. Soldiers learning to maintain equipment they'd barely understood. Now, with Tunisia secured and Sicily looming, the entire theatre ran on protocols Russ and Otto had developed in one desperate night. A jeep pulled up. Major Briggs stepped out. "Sergeant Carver, Weber, walk with me." They followed him to a captured German motor pool. BMW R75s and Zundap KS750s sat in neat rows. Beautiful machines representing engineering excellence. Everything spoke of craftsmanship. They were also mostly broken. Briggs opened a folder. "German maintenance logs. These bikes averaged 1,400 miles before requiring depot maintenance. Our Harleys averaged 3,200. The BMW needs 23 specialty wrenches. Our WLA needs what comes in the standard kit." He pulled out another sheet. "Spare parts. The Germans had enough to maintain 40 motorcycles for 3 months. American depots stock enough to maintain 500 for a year. In one depot." He closed the folder. "The Germans built masterpieces. We built a system."
"Your system proved which philosophy wins industrial wars." "It wasn't my system, sir. It was already there. I just showed people how to use it."
"Division wants you for Sicily. You'll establish maintenance protocols for the entire operation." Briggs paused. "The War Department wants a standardized manual, something distributed army-wide. You'd be primary author." "I'll do whatever the army needs, sir." After Briggs left, Otto stopped at one R75, ran his hand along the tank. "I build one like this, 1941, Munich. 3 weeks with master craftsman. Engine hand-fitted. Tolerances to thousandth of millimeter. Beautiful." He moved to a Harley. "This one probably 8 hours by woman who never see motorcycle before war. Tolerances loose. Welds adequate. Nothing precision." Otto looked at Russ. "But it works. It keeps working. And there are 90,000. Which would you rather have fighting a war?" Otto laughed bitter. 3 months ago, I say BMW, German pride. "Now I understand. War is not won by best individual machine, is won by best system of machines." They found shade, shared water. Victory sounds echoed around them. "What happens to you now?" Russ asked. Otto shrugged. "I stay with you if allowed. Help with Sicily, maybe Italy, maybe all way to Berlin. Is strange, yes, German helping Americans invade homeland. But I am mechanic first, German second." "You miss your daughters?" "Every day." Otto showed a worn photograph. 2 girls, 10 and 12, in front of a Munich apartment. "I write letters through Red Cross. Maybe they receive. Maybe they think I am dead." Russ showed Sarah's photo. 8 years old now. He'd missed her birthday. "We get through this, we both go home. See our girls. You believe this, that we survive." "I have to. Otherwise, what's the point?" July 9th, 1943. Operation Husky.
the invasion of Sicily. Russ watched from an LST as coastline emerged. Around him, hundreds of ships, the largest amphibious operation to that point. His motorcycles were loaded below deck. 50 Harley-Davidsons, each maintained according to protocols now standard across the invasion force. Within 6 hours, Russ had his motor pool established on Sicilian soil. Within 12 bikes ran courier missions. Within 24, the system worked as designed. September 1944. Italy, somewhere between Rome and the Gothic line. Russ sat in a tent reviewing maintenance reports from 15 units. Master Sergeant now, with responsibilities that kept him from wrenches. But the system was larger than him now. The tent flap opened, a corporal holding a telegram with bad news expression. Sergeant Carver. This came through communications, marked urgent, personal. Russ took it with shaking hands. Sarah Carver. Stop. Pneumonia. Stop. Condition. Serious. Stop. Suggest emergency leave. Stop. His daughter. His little girl, who drew pictures of Daddy fixing things. Sick. Possibly dying while he sat in Italy. Major Briggs appeared within the hour. Russ, I heard. Emergency leave approved. Transport to Naples leaves 0600. You'll be stateside in a week. Russ looked at maintenance reports, training schedules, the draft manual 3/4 complete. Sir, the manual, the training program, 300 mechanics by November. Someone else can handle it. No one else knows the system like I do, like Otto does. We're so close to finishing. If I leave now... Your daughter is sick, Sergeant. You go home. Russ walked to the tent entrance, looked at his motor pool. Rows of Harleys maintained by mechanics he'd trained. He thought about Sarah, about missing her birthday, about all the sacrificed moments, about the choice between personal needs and something larger. Sir, request permission to stay. Briggs's expression hardened. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking very clearly, sir. My daughter is sick. My wife is with her. Doctors are involved. Me being there doesn't change medical care. But me being here means finishing something that helps thousands of fathers get home to their daughters. Not just mine. All of them. You could lose her, Russ. I could. That would destroy me. But if I go home and this system fails, if men die because we didn't finish... Russ's voice cracked. Sarah drew me a picture. Daddy fixing things. Maybe the best way to honor that is fixing the system so other daddies survive. Silence. Then, you're sure? No, sir. But I'm staying anyway. The next 6 weeks were the hardest. Russ worked 18-hour days driving himself and Otto to complete the manual. Every page he thought about Sarah. Every procedure he imagined her getting worse. Letters came. Sarah was stable, then improving, then recovering, then finally, late October, fully recovered. The relief nearly broke him. He sat alone and cried for the first time since the war started. Otto found him sat down, shared the silence. She's okay, Russ managed. Sarah's okay. Good. Is very good. Otto pulled out his flask. You made right choice. Hard choice. But right one. I abandoned my daughter. No. You trusted your wife to care for daughter while you cared for thousands of soldiers' lives. Is not abandonment. Is different kind of love. Otto pulled Russ to his feet. We finish manual. Then you write letter to Sarah. She understands. Children always understand when parents do hard right thing. November 1944. The manual was complete. FM 9321, simplified motorcycle maintenance. 300 pages turning maintenance from specialized expertise into standardized process. Distributed army-wide. Motorcycle operational readiness jumped to 91% highest of any vehicle class. Lives saved because mechanics with minimal training could keep machines running. Russ held the first copy. His name on the title page with Otto Weber listed as technical consultant. Below a dedication, for all the fathers who maintain machines so other fathers can come home. May 8th, 1945. Victory in Europe. The war ended with exhaustion. Russ stood in a Munich street watching American troops occupy the city where Otto had built BMWs. The factory was rubble now destroyed by Allied bombing. The system that had produced excellence for a few, overwhelmed by the system that produced adequacy for millions. Otto stood beside him looking at his destroyed city with dry eyes. Strange to see home like this. You want to look for your daughters? Red Cross already found them, living with my sister in countryside. I see them next week. Otto's voice shook. 5 years since I hold my girls. You'll have the rest of your life to make up for it. 3 weeks later, the paperwork cleared. Transport home, June 1945, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. The train pulled into the station on a morning that smelled like rain and fresh-cut hay. Russ stepped onto the platform with a duffel containing everything that mattered: his uniform, his tools, a copy of FM 9321, and serial number plate 42 WLA 43576 removed from his Harley. A souvenir of the motorcycle that had taught him everything. Sarah was waiting. 10 years old now, no longer the 7-year-old he'd left. She'd grown, changed. 3 years of childhood missed. She saw him, ran, threw herself into his arms with complete faith. "Daddy, you're home. You're really home." Russ held her and couldn't speak. The weight of 3 years crashed over him. He knelt, holding his daughter, and cried while she patted his head and told him everything was okay. Daddy was home now. Later on the porch, Sarah showed him pictures she'd drawn. Dozens of them. Daddy fixing tanks, planes, motorcycles. Always the same theme, her father making broken things work. "Did you really fix things, Daddy, in the war?" Russ thought about 73 motorcycles in Tunisia, about maintenance systems that kept an army mobile, about field manuals training mechanics for years, about fathers who survived because machines worked. "Yeah, baby. I fixed things. Important things. Some people would say so, but nothing as important as being here with you." Sarah leaned against him. "Can you teach me how to fix things? You want to be a mechanic? I want to be like you." That almost broke him again. But he held together, wrapped his arm around his daughter. "I'll teach you everything I know." 1947. The farm outside Cedar Rapids. Russ had bought the old Morrison place. 40 acres and a barn he'd turned into a workshop filled with tools and projects. In one corner sat his restoration project. He pulled off the tarp, revealing a Harley-Davidson WLA, olive drab paint faded but intact. Serial number 42 WLA 43576. The bike that had started everything. He'd tracked it through surplus channels, paid more than it was worth, shipped it home. Now he was rebuilding it, teaching Sarah fundamentals. She was 12 with natural mechanical aptitude. "Daddy, why this one? There's lots of old motorcycles." Russ thought about Tunisia, about impossible deadlines, about learning that systems mattered more than individual excellence. "This bike taught me something important, about how the best solution isn't always the perfect solution. Sometimes good enough built-in quantity with the right support beats excellent built-in limited numbers." Sarah looked confused. "Simpler. The Germans built 35,000 of their best motorcycles. We built 90,000 of these. We didn't win because we were better engineers. We won because we understood scale. We built systems that worked for everyone, not just experts." So simple beats complicated. Sometimes. When simple can be produced in the numbers you need, maintained by the people you have, supported by the infrastructure you can build. They worked through the afternoon. Russ showed Sarah how to disassemble the flathead engine, explaining each component, teaching mechanical logic. She absorbed it all with quick intelligence. As sunset approached, they stepped back. The engine was completely disassembled parts laid out in organized rows. "Daddy, did people die in the war because of motorcycles?" Russ considered lying, but she deserved truth. Yes, people died when motorcycles didn't work, when communications failed because courier bikes broke down. Every machine that didn't work meant someone might die. That's why I stayed in Italy when you were sick. Finishing the manual meant fewer machines would fail, fewer people would die. I was mad at you for not coming home. I know, but I understand now. You were fixing things so other daddies could come home. Russ pulled his daughter close. "I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me." "You were fixing bigger things," Mama explained. "Said sometimes daddies have to choose between family and the world, and the brave ones choose the world because that protects the family. Your mother is a very wise woman." They stood surrounded by motorcycle parts and tools and the comfortable smell of oil and metal. Father and daughter, mechanic and apprentice, connected by the simple act of taking broken things and making them work. Russell Carver died in 1989, age 84. He was buried in Cedar Rapids with full military honors. At the funeral, his daughter Sarah spoke about a father who'd taught her that fixing things meant understanding systems, that individual excellence mattered less than collective competence. Otto Weber, American citizen since 1950, Harley-Davidson employee until 1978, stood at the graveside with tears on his face. Two mechanics who'd met as enemies and parted as friends. After the service, Otto approached Sarah, handed her something wrapped in oiled cloth. She unwrapped it. A manufacturer's plate. Serial number 42 WLA 43576.
From the first bike, the one that taught us both. Your father wanted you to have it. Said to tell you he spent his whole life fixing things. But the most important thing he ever fixed was showing the world that systems matter more than genius. Sarah held the plate metal worn smooth by decades' numbers still visible. What happened to the motorcycle? In museum now. Milwaukee. Your father donated it last year, but he kept this. Said someday you'd understand why. Sarah understood. This wasn't just a serial number. It was proof her father had been part of something larger. That one Iowa mechanic had helped build a system that changed how armies maintained equipment. That simple solutions executed well could reshape the world. She placed the plate in her father's casket along with FM 93221 and a crayon drawing from when she was 7. Daddy fixing things. The 3 items that defined Russell Carver, the machine that taught him, the manual that spread his knowledge, the love that motivated him. In the Harley-Davidson Museum in Milwaukee, motorcycle 42 WLA 43576 sits behind glass. A placard reads, Harley-Davidson WLA serial number 42 LA 43576. Served North Africa, Sicily, Italy, 1943 to 1945. Foundation for Simplified Maintenance Protocols developed by Master Sergeant Russell Carver that became standard U.S. Army doctrine through the 1960s. Operational rate under Carver procedures 91% highest of any WW2 vehicle class. Museum staff still start it occasionally using procedures from FM 9321. The engine settles into its rhythm. That sound Russell Carver once said was arithmetic made audible. Not the best motorcycle ever built, but the most American. Simple, reliable, produced in overwhelming numbers. Supported by systems that made expertise unnecessary. Physical proof that in industrial war, adequate solutions maintained by many beat excellent solutions maintained by few. 90,000 built, 16,000 opposed. The arithmetic that never lied. Russell Carver understood this in a single night in Tunisia, spent the rest of his life teaching others. And the lesson endures, cast in steel and gasoline, running still after 80 years. The sound of systems working as designed. The sound of arithmetic winning wars. The sound of legacy.